Coping with COVID and In It Together SC present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Happy Wellness Wednesday. I'm Tre Tailor, and In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. And listen, how does your weight affect your heart? Well, Dr. Kathi Earles has spent her professional life studying heart disease and obesity, and she's here today to share that information with us and how we can help ourselves. Dr. Earles, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Great. Plus, last week, right on this show, Dr. Nicole told me to make certain my little cough that I had wasn't the flu. Today, she comes back to tell us why she was so concerned about it. Dr. Nicole, we thank you so much for coming back. I'm still coughing, but not as bad.
Well, good. I'm glad you're better, but thanks for having me back again.
Thank you so much. Both of these ladies are coming up next and more on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. But first, your COVID community updates. The governor of South Carolina signed into law yesterday HBCU Day at the State House. The 7 HBCUs and representatives were on hand to witness what McMaster called a historic moment in our state. He said South Carolina is strong because of the contributions of HBCUs. Teacher dress code was debated at the Kershaw School Board meeting this week. This after 2 instructors wore Black History Month shirts and were asked to take them off. Now, the issue stems from an earlier meeting where the principal said only school logoed items could be worn. When someone asked about special holidays and birthdays, those items were approved. The next day, the Black History Month t-shirts were worn and removed. According to Kershaw County school dress policy, now no t-shirts are allowed. And Columbia City Council approved a $600,000 pedestrian safety plan. The focus on Assembly Street between Pendleton and Lady Streets will improve sidewalks, medians, and signal lights. Police Chief Skip Holbrook says it's needed because pedestrian vehicle injuries in that area occur frequently. The project is set for completion in 2023. Visit scdhec.gov for the most up-to-date listing of times, dates, and location for COVID testing, flu testing, and more. Visit scdhec.gov. Now, you can get 5 free rapid self-COVID tests just by logging on to covidtests.gov. I got mine last week, and I emailed for them on January 19th. So it doesn't take but a couple of weeks. Go ahead and do that, covidtest.gov. Also, COVID vaccines are being held for veterans at the VA. So if you are a vet, please stop by the VA. You can see that information on the screen. Several retail outlets are offering COVID vaccinations and some N95 masks, including Kroger pharmacies. They're offering the COVID vaccines. CVS is offering COVID vaccines, including those located in Target stores. And Walgreens is also offering the COVID vaccine. And again, they're also offering those free N95 masks. Now, Brooklyn Baptist Church in West Columbia, South Carolina, also has a vaccine clinic open 7 days a week. And if you are having a challenge getting to your COVID vaccine, don't miss your shot. The Comet bus system is giving free rides. So go ahead and catch the Comet and get your COVID vaccination. As a matter of fact, the main Comet location at the corner of Sumter and Laurel Streets, they also have a COVID vaccine clinic set up there. Now, if you are having some technology challenges getting set up to make your appointment, you can call Get Set Up and they will help seniors and also the technologically challenged at Get Set Up. Also, some other financial resources are available through FEMA. They've got a COVID funeral reimbursement. If you have lost someone due to COVID, contact the folks at FEMA and get reimbursed for those COVID expenses. Also, SC Bar Association and SC Legal Services have a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. Lexington County has a bill assistance program. SC Housing and Dominion Energy have a rental and utilities assistance program. And also, if you or someone you know is having some challenges coping with COVID, mental health issues are up, not only in South Carolina, but all around the country. Call SC Hopes. It's a 24-hour assistance line. Finally, Prisma Health has free webinars for this February Heart Health Month. You can see that information on the screen. Please check out the Prisma Health free Heart Health Month webinars. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. All right. So listen, you are watching Coping with COVID, SCDHEC, and also In It Together SC present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. We are actually streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Please go over there. You can see it there on the screen. Hit like and share and follow and check out all of the amazing resources that are available on the In It Together Facebook page. We're also streaming live on the Tailor Made Production page on Facebook. That's the home of Coping with COVID. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. Not only will you be able to watch Coping with COVID Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but also first Monday with comedian George Wallace. We also have a presence on YouTube. We're streaming live on YouTube. Please go over there. And also, if you hit the subscribe button, also you can also watch past episodes of Coping with COVID on the YouTube channel. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. Now, all of the information that I just shared, all of the resources that are available, they'll be available throughout the show. Check the scroll at the bottom of the screen, and please post and share this information out. Like we like to say, we want to get the message to the masses. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday on Coping with COVID every Wednesday. And we talk a lot on this segment about how and what we eat and do and don't do affects our health, how it contributes to disease and conditions that we have. And today, how our weight affects our health. Dr. Kathi Earles has spent much of her professional life focusing on studying and writing about obesity and how it affects us. The highly respected author, educator, and speaker is the Senior Obesity Medical Liaison for Novo Nordisk. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Earles.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, girl, listen, with all of this great research, I just want to know, what's the cure?
What's the cure? Oh, that's a loaded question. Eating right, exercise, portion control, anti-obesity medication when needed, and there are other surgical options if needed as well. It's no real one size fits all.
Right. It's a various prong effect. So
exactly.
So let me ask you something, Dr. Earles. Is it all about what we eat, or is it in our bloodline? You know, we grew up saying, "Oh, she just big bone."
Right.
Is it that?
Yeah. You know, it's much more than what we eat. There is a genetic component, as you mentioned, but there are other things. There are things like the environment, our behavior. When I say environment, where you live. So for example, I'm in the city of Atlanta. We have many areas here that are what we call food deserts. There's been some research, right, that looks at the length of a person's home to the corner store. All those kind of things make a difference. How many corner stores you have, how many fresh fruits and vegetables you have in your area. Is your area a food desert, and where you have a whole bunch of fast food areas and maybe just one grocery store? There are other things that are involved too. There's a big hormonal component. Everybody's hormones don't work the same. Yeah. So it's more, it's physiological factors. It's a whole bunch of stuff. It's not just what you eat. That would be nice if it was just what you ate, but it's much more complex than that.
Yeah, I want to jump in here because I'm in South Carolina, and we have food. Food deserts, I think, are a big problem all across the country. And you make such a great point about what are you close to? Are you close to a grocery store? Are you close to the farmer's market? Or is the corner store, which the bigger issue then plays into, do you have transportation to get any place else but the corner store?
Sure.
Is that all that may be available to you? Is pickle pig feet and some, you know what I'm saying? And
absolutely.
Chicken and soda, because that's what the corner store has.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So I'll tell you the other thing that happened a couple of weeks ago. I interviewed some folks from BJ Comp. It's one of the healthcare facilities here in South Carolina, and they have an NDPP, National Diabetes Prevention Program, and they were able to get fresh fruit and vegetable boxes from Food Share.
Yes.
And they said that they clearly saw a big difference in when those folks got those free fruit and vegetable boxes than before, because now you got a big box of free stuff that you got to do something with. And they saw a big difference in people's blood sugar levels, you know, their diabetes and things like that, and their weight, consequently their weight, because they at least had access to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. So it's not necessarily, I mean, we know better, right? But if you don't have access, then knowing better can only do but so much. And you made a great point with that. Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Kathi Earles joins us. She is a highly respected author, educator, and speaker, and is the senior obesity medical liaison for Novo Nordisk. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching a Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. So, Dr. Earles, what is considered obese? Is it the same for everyone?
Okay, so obesity is defined by what we call our BMI, or our body mass index. And body mass index is calculated by your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. Okay, so what does that mean? Essentially, it's how round you are. And the reason I say how round you are is because BMI, you could actually have an elevated BMI, but one thing that has to be considered in this particular definition is waist circumference. So waist to hip ratio is very important. So it's not just your BMI, but it's your waist to hip ratio. And as we know, is that the waist circumference is different depending upon the ethnicity. So we have to consider those aspects too. BMI is a really good estimate for the majority of individuals. And I say the majority because, let's say, for example, if you have a whole bunch of muscle mass, then your BMI is going to be higher. You don't necessarily have the adipose tissue, particularly located around the waist, that's associated with obesity, but you have a high BMI. But so usually the body mass index and the waist circumference and waist to hip ratio are used to characterize someone as either obese or not. And as you saw there in that particular slide, it's defined as a BMI at or greater than 30. And then the classes increase from there. Class 1, class 2, class 3, all of them have a higher BMI. And with those become greater comorbidities, or what we call comorbidities, other diseases that go along with the obesity.
Yeah, of course, this show is sponsored by the Diabetes Action Council. So we talk a lot about all of those pre-existing conditions, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, all of that, the comorbidities, as you say. So we need to find out what our BMI is then, right?
That is a good place to start. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So, is obesity the same for everyone? I know you mentioned a little bit about its ethnicity, male, female, gender related.
Yes. Yeah. I would say it's not the same for everyone. And the reason I say that is because when we talk about waist circumference, the waist circumference, or the average waist circumference of, let's say, someone of European ancestry is different from African Americans. So those are things that we have to consider. Additionally, it's different. The waist circumference is different for women of Asian ethnicity. So we have to consider those differences when we make or define or say someone is in fact obese.
Wow. I grew up, and it's so funny. I grew up, and I always said I was a fat little girl with glasses and braces, and I was, but to me, I wore size 12, 14. Now I have my sister-in-law who was much larger. She didn't think I was fat, and so, I was fat to me.
Right.
But it's perspective. And like you said, it's so different for everybody. What about, and I know we talked a little bit about this before, about genetics, and you talked about that, because that's the other thing. I have high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease in my family. I don't smoke. I exercise regularly, but I still have those things that are concerning,
Sure. Absolutely. So as you mentioned, some of those things are we're genetically predisposed to that. Can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say you can't, but you can certainly eat right, exercise, and try to prevent that as much as possible. But your genetics are what they are going to be. There are some other things that you also can't do something about. Physiological makeup, your environment, certain things like that, your hormonal makeup. And we know that there's a genetic role when we look at twins, when we look at identical twins versus unidentical twins. You can see the difference in their weight. So we know that their weight oftentimes is based upon the genetics. You brought this slide up here. There's more to obesity than just our genetics. Dietary changes. You can see there way back when you and I were kids, we didn't know anything about supersizing. We didn't have
Right.
it. Getting a large order of French fries was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Now, in many places, it's actually cheaper to supersize than to get
Yes.
something of a nutritious value, like a salad, for example. The other thing that's changed is we are a chronically sleep deprived nation. 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't that bad. But now your average individual may get 6 hours of sleep. And we know that there's an association with those hormones that essentially guide your appetite, cause you to feel either full or hungry based upon sleep deprivation. So we have a diurnal pattern with these hormones. And when you don't get enough sleep, you essentially mess that up.
That is so huge, Dr. Earles, because I think one of the things, I don't think we think about or correlate sleep with eating.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll tell you again, and I always draw back to my personal thing. Look, just last night, girl, I was 11 o'clock and I was clearly sleepy, but I passed my bedroom to go downstairs and get something to eat.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember when I used to stay up really late and, you know, ended up having really severe acid reflux. And the doctor ended up saying, you are eating too late. You're eating and sleeping on it, you know? So I don't, but we don't think about that. And like you say, we're working more, we're doing things more.
We're sitting more.
We're sitting more.
We're sitting more. We talk about, you know, activity level is another component. When you and I were kids, or at least we used to play outside until the street lights came on, you don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
So not only do we have a decrease in the amount of actual physical activity, we have an increase in screen time, you know, not just the television, but it's the tablet and the phone.
Oh, girl. Listen, look, I think they put something in the daggone tablet because those kids are so drawn to it, screaming and hollering if you take the tablet away from it. That's the devil. I'm just convinced.
Oh, I understand completely. Yes, and I agree with you too.
Dr. Kathi Earles joins us today. She is the senior obesity medical liaison for Norvo Nordic. She has spent much of her professional life studying the effects of how weight affects our health. What happens with the weight, Dr. Earles? What actually happens with the weight that really affects us? What is it about the weight?
Sure. Okay, so with the weight comes a whole host of, let's say, chemical abnormalities. We can think of obesity as like a mild state of inflammation because that's essentially what happens. And many of these cells that are responsible, that cause this inflammatory process, go to do things like lodge in the blood vessels, stiffen the blood vessels so that they're not able to expand when they need to, when you need to have an increased blood supply. Plaques build up in the blood vessels throughout the body, many of these located in the small vessels in the heart, which is why there's an association between obesity and cardiovascular disease. So not just cardiovascular disease, you mentioned, of course, diabetes, hypertension, certain types of cancer. Depression is one that we oftentimes don't talk about, which is also associated with obesity. So there are many diseases that are associated. So I don't want us to say that it's necessarily the weight, but it's everything that comes as a result of the weight. And we know, we often talk about weight loss. Really, in order to decrease those diseases significantly, it only takes about 5 to 10% weight loss. Usually people don't just want to lose 5 to 10%, but from a health perspective, 5 to 10% weight loss can decrease many of those comorbidities significantly.
Wow. So the extra weight affects our health, as you say, in so many different things. That brings me to the question, can you be quote unquote thin and the weight that you do have still affect you?
I certainly don't want to say no, because I'm sure you can in some aspect. The other thing too, to your question is, it's not the weight so much. It is the weight, but it's where you carry that.
Where you carry the weight.
Yes. Okay. So particularly around the waist.
Gotcha.
And I mention that because many of us, African Americans, women particularly, we don't necessarily have the weight always around our waist.
That's right. It's in our hips.
Exactly. But we may have the same BMI, but actually that kind of pear shape is deemed to be healthier than the apple shape in which we have the weight around our waist.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so again, that's why it's so important to, as you say, find out what your BMI, your best body mass index is,
Yes.
so that you can make sure because I thought about the weight, because I'm sitting here and again, to the human eye, I wouldn't be considered overweight, but I
Right.
know that again, because I have the bloodline,
Yes.
problems. I've got to be conscientious about
Absolutely.
what I eat, and the fact if exercising. I mean,
Sure.
I've had to. I tell you, I've had to be more conscientious about making sure I get at least my 30 minutes in every
Mm-hmm.
day.
Absolutely.
Because I want to live
Right.
a
Right. And
good
you
life.
want to live healthy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's the key. And that's what we always say here is it hard? It might be. And we're going to
Mhm.
talk a little bit later about some of the prevention strategies. But what is more important? Is the fried chicken more important than your health? You know what I mean?
Right.
Is
Right.
it more important than you
Yes.
having a healthy, productive life, being
Yes.
around for your children, your
Yes.
grandchildren, the weddings, the whatever,
Yes. But you mentioned an interesting point. Some individual, it's typical that you lose the weight 8 times, you gain it back, and we oftentimes think that that's the individual's fault. But what we know now, what we didn't know 20 years ago, is about the actual disease of obesity. There are hormones and chemicals and so forth that actually are designed to make you gain the weight back, to get you back to your original set point. So,
Oh,
so for
wow.
example, there's several hormones that cause you to feel full, and then there's one hormone that causes you to feel hungry. What we see is that with weight loss, the hormones that cause you to feel full, they actually decrease. And the one that causes you to feel hungry actually goes up, causing you to want to eat more and gain the weight
We
back.
just can't
So,
win, can we?
no, well, so that's why we oftentimes
That's interesting.
blame folks that couldn't keep the weight off. But really, from a chemical and a hormonal standpoint, it's designed for you to actually gain that weight back, to get back to your original set point. We saw that on The Biggest Loser show, in which, everybody gained the weight back. So.
Yeah. Dr. Kathi Earles joins us. She is the Senior Obesity Medical Liaison at Novo Nordisk, and she's been telling us about heart disease and obesity. Want to remind you that the information for COVID testing, vaccinations, and financial resources are available on this show, throughout the show, scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So please post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. So many people still very much affected by COVID. So we want to get that information out. You're watching Wellness Wednesday. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. Now, what about race a little bit? I know you said genetics obviously play a part, and race. Does race play a part in our weight loss and gain?
Well, race plays a part, particularly in how we define the weight, because, like we said, waist circumference is a really big component. You can have an elevated BMI because your weight is high, but if the majority of that weight, as we said, is attributed to your hips as opposed to your waist, it's actually healthier. So it's weight, but it's where that weight is.
Gotcha.
And for us, our weight oftentimes is located in our hips as opposed to our waist.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the extra weight affecting both our health and our quality of life.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you have diabetes, your quality of life is a little different than if you don't. You have to take medication. You have to watch your blood sugar. You have to go to your doctor regularly. You have to get eye exams to make sure that your vision is not decreasing. You have to watch what you eat. So that's just with diabetes. We also know that there's an increase in certain types of cancers associated with obesity. One, for example, is postmenopausal breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
So if you have an elevated BMI that puts you in that category, then that's something that you are at increased risk for compared to someone who doesn't have the elevated BMI associated with obesity. As we said, depression, right, is a big thing that we're now finding out is associated with obesity. Cardiovascular disease, we already mentioned, kidney disease, liver disease, cancer of the liver, cancer of the kidneys are all associated with obesity. So having these diseases or being at risk for these diseases, of course, affects your quality of life in a not positive manner.
Let me ask you, why is it that, and I know you focus a lot on heart disease and weight gain. How is it and why is it that the weight gain affects heart disease, which is what your specialty is, but then even why the weight gain affects all these other things? And the depression is interesting that you mentioned that, because other than the fact that maybe you don't feel good because you are overweight, I never heard that weight gain actually causes depression. Is it just about, in that case, is it just about because you don't feel good and, you know, people saying or whatever, or is it, I don't know, is it chemically? Is it a chemical thing?
Well, we're still finding out a lot about the mental aspect. But one thing that we know, for example, children who have an elevated BMI, and their definition is a little bit different, but let's say a child who is obese oftentimes will be stigmatized at schools and other areas. Additionally, children who are obese oftentimes can become bullies because they're stigmatized. So that, in fact, we know. So it's as we said, it's many other diseases, and now we're looking at the emotional component. We're still finding out how the disease of obesity is associated with many of these diseases. But one thing that we know for sure is that obesity is like being in a mild inflammatory state. And many of these cells and these chemicals that create this inflammation are also responsible for the destruction that we see in our blood vessels, leading us to oftentimes cardiovascular disease.
Yeah. Dr. Kathi Earles joins us. We've been talking about weight and obesity and how it affects everything else. So is losing weight the key, Dr. Earles, or is it more?
Losing weight and keeping the weight off. And that is one of the big obstacles. So it's not just losing weight, but it's keeping the weight off and adopting a healthier lifestyle. We talk about portion control. I get the question all the time, what's the best diet? The best diet is the one that you can keep up with, right? The one that you can live with. So we talk about portion control, vegetables. I mean, we all know what to do, right? But it's a matter of doing it consistently. It's a matter of getting enough sleep, exercising consistently, fresh fruits and vegetables, we already mentioned. But the challenge is to lose the weight, to adopt a healthy lifestyle, and to keep the weight off.
Right. And
if we challenge.
And it is a challenge. I mean, you know, so many factors go into that. Other people in the household, you know, like you said, access to other things. So, you know, it certainly is a challenge. It certainly is a challenge. I got two little ones about 2.5 years ago, and you know, that, I mean, you know, they eat stuff that I don't eat.
Right.
You know, that I wouldn't even think about eating.
Yes.
And I'm a vegetarian, so I do let them eat meat, but you know, just to let them have treats and stuff like that. And I'm anti-sugar. I'm that mama who says, no, you know, everybody else is eating. I ain't got nothing to do.
Right.
You know, but if it's in the house, girl, Valentine's Day, and they came home with a bag of stuff.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm about to run on the board of one of those children's school just so I can say, why do 30 kids have to bring candy to everybody? That just doesn't make any sense, girl. I digress, but you know, it's just things like that.
But it's a lot about what you said about the habits that you start, particularly with your children. When I grew up, we went out trick-or-treating, and then when we came back, my mom took the bag, emptied all the candy out, and allowed us to pick 1 or 2 pieces. I thought that was normal. Right? I grew up thinking that was normal, and it wasn't until perhaps as a young teenager I realized that it wasn't. I thought, you know, having water for dinner was normal. I didn't know anything about soda. I thought that was normal. It took me a while to realize that it was not. So establishing healthy habits early on in life is really beneficial.
Yeah, you make a great point. Yeah, my babies, we drink water over here. You know, but you know, You're right. Everybody doesn't in the old, but I do think it is important to set those habits early. And even if
Yes,
you look, just like the Bible girl, if you know better, you can do
you
better,
do
even
better,
if
right?
you're out in the world where other people
Hmm.
are doing other things.
Hmm.
Mitchell Peace Joy Jen has a question. Thank you, Mitchell, for joining us. She wants to know, what exercises would you recommend, Dr. Earles, for someone who has an excessive amount of weight to shed? Thank you so much
Okay.
for your question.
Okay, thank you for that. First of all, I'd recommend that you, of course, go and visit your physician to make sure that you are able to participate in physical activity. We certainly don't want there to be some reason why you can't, but
Right.
you definitely want to get checked out first. But oftentimes we say the recommended amount of physical activity is about 150 minutes a week. Well, if you're going from zero, you certainly aren't going to go from
Right.
0 to 150 minutes a week. So what's important is that you begin somewhere. So if you're doing nothing, then perhaps walking a block is a good place to start. And then you walk a block maybe 3 times a week. And then the subsequent week, you do it 5 times a week. And then you increase the amount that you're walking. And then you increase the speed in which you're walking. So just beginning somewhere and being consistent with it is a good place to start. We often talk about, particularly as we get older, resistance. So lifting weights and so forth are good to add. But I don't want anyone to think that just because 150 minutes a week is what's recommended, that you have to start that tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
unrealistic. The goal here is to start somewhere, improve upon it, and continue and be consistent with it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Mitchell, for your question. We appreciate you watching Coping with COVID Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. Dr. Kathi Earles joins us, and your focus is also on prevention strategies. Before you leave, can you share with us what some of those prevention strategies are?
Sure. So prevention strategies, many of them are essentially the opposite of those things that are complementary to obesity. Sleep is a big
Yeah.
one.
Sleep is
Sleep
such
is a big
yeah.
one. Yes. In making sure that on a regular basis that we're getting 8 hours of sleep. How many of us do that? I can say honestly that I do not.
Right.
But we know that those hormones that are associated with our appetite, whether you're full or whether you're hungry, are really messed up if we don't get an adequate amount of sleep. So
Right.
that's something that we can practice and make a part of our daily routine. Sleep
So
is
is
one.
8 hours the optimal 8 hours?
8 hours would be good for us as adults. Other things is as we mentioned, exercise. So regular exercise, not just, we don't want to start out going hard and then we're unable to continue it, but regular exercise is a good means of prevention. As we said, a healthy appetite, a diet that is richer in fruits and vegetables than it is in starch, potatoes, and rice, and so forth.
Yeah.
We want to limit our sweets as well. We all know this. So it's kind of like we know the things to do.
Oh, yeah.
We know. It's just a matter of doing it. And for some of us, this may be a little bit inconvenient. We may actually have to seek out an area that has fresh fruits and vegetables and less of the fast food and green space so that we can exercise outside if we need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
As well as decrease our stress. Stress is associated with a hormone called cortisol, which leads to an increase in waist circumference. So limiting our stress, increasing our activity, watching our intake, our diet, making sure that we're eating healthy fruits and vegetables and so forth.
Yeah. And Dr. Earles, this is all so doable. I know some people are thinking, oh, I guess I gotta have to move to the moon or somewhere like that to get rid of stress and eat well and get enough sleep.
Yes.
You gotta live by yourself, but no, it is doable. And it is not only doable, it is necessary for us to have and live the life that we all want, desire, and deserve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the quality.
Yeah.
So, yes, we definitely want to. I mean, it's one thing to be able to live long, but the quality of life is what this will afford us. Yeah.
Dr. Kathi Earles is a highly respected author, educator, and speaker, and she is the Senior Obesity Medical Liaison for Novo Nordisk. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of this great information. Dr. Earles, we appreciate you, and thank you so much for joining us
It's my
today
pleasure.
on
Thank you,
Wellness
Trey.
Wednesday.
All right.
from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. That's Dr. Kathi Earles. Coming up, why Dr. Nicole is back this week. After she heard me coughing last Wellness Wednesday, we were off the air and she told me some things that she's going to share with you coming up next and why it's important for you too. That's next on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. I'm Tre Tailor.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Aiken-Cochran. As Miss America, I know that taking care of yourself is important. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. Brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday lives. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
The Comet gives me a reliable source of transportation.
It's very convenient to me, and they have wonderful drivers.
It's clean, and it builds community. It's fun to meet people.
It makes me feel like really independent. It's just fun.
Comet's always going to be there, and it gets me everywhere I need to go.
We try to ride every single day. Comedy is our livelihood.
Visit Davis Tax Service today, 803-419-1001.
Thank you so much for joining us once again. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council on coping with COVID. Listen, we are streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow and check it out. They've got such great information in there on health and wellness and fitness. And if you need a diabetes prevention program, we're also streaming live on the Tailor Made production page. That is the home of coping with COVID. Please go over there once again and hit like and share and follow. Get notifications as to when you can watch Coping with COVID Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and first Monday with comedian George Wallace. Also, all kind of great resources on that page too. We're also streaming live on YouTube. Please go over there and hit the subscribe button. We would love for you to do that. And there you can find past episodes of Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. Now, don't forget that throughout the show, you see the scroll on the bottom of the screen. It has such great resources, information about vaccine and testing locations, and also financial information if you or someone you know needs it. So please post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. I want to say hi to Tamika Harris. She joins us during the break. Thank you, Tamika, so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. It's Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. Now, last week, Dr. Nicole Edwards joined us for our conversation about heart health and Wear Red Day. She noticed, or I told her, I can't remember which happened, that I was congested, I was coughing, and she told me to see if I had the flu. Now I said, well, I got my flu shot. Well, she's back this week to share our off-air conversation about this flu season. Hey, Cole, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there, thanks for having me back. I love to be here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much. And listen, thank you. Good looking out. Listen, I didn't have the flu. I did go, and I'll tell you, because I needed to we talked about taking a COVID test and taking the flu test. Now, my regular doctor wouldn't give me a COVID test, but I'll tell you, I went to Doctor's Care. I was able to get both tests, and my insurance took care of both of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So your insurance is going to cover it. So don't be afraid to do that. But these days, you got to test it all.
Yeah. And I wanted to mention that, Nicole, because Doctor's Care usually charges or whatever. But I was like, oh, I don't know how much is this going to cost, but I need to get both tests. I need to find out what's going on. But yeah, my insurance took care of both of it. I just got regular old Blue Cross Blue Shield through the whatever, Obamacare, whatever, Marketplace. So let's talk a little bit about, so listen, I'm still clearing my throat a little bit. I still got a little congestion, but why is the flu so bad this year?
Okay, so the flu season typically happens between late September and actually goes all the way until March. Most people don't know that. Typically, flu is worse between like December and early February. So that's usually when flu is worse, and then we start to see it trending down. I'm going to tell you this though, in my offices where I have seen. We've been seeing flu kind of year round, which is weird.
Oh, wow.
That's been like the last 2, maybe 3 years. We've been seeing flu cases as late as into April and May and as early as August, which I was like, that is odd. Like, I don't usually see flu during these times, but when you come in with certain symptoms, I'm going to swab you for the flu. So what we also see is typically we see kind of an uptick in flu almost biannually. So every other year, we see higher levels of flu. Now, I'll tell you this, when we had COVID last year and the year before, and people were on more lockdown, people were on more shutdown, people were wearing their masks a little bit more, we didn't see as high of flu numbers because, again, the flu is a virus and it's airborne. So we are sending it out airborne. So with everybody inside, number one, we weren't seeing it. And then with everybody wearing their mask, we weren't seeing it as high. But what's been happening lately? We're coming out now more. We're not isolating as much as we were. People are starting to remove mask mandates and people are not wearing their masks as much. And so we are seeing an uptick in the flu. You just had that slide up. We typically see flu numbers go up, like I said, in December and January. But if you look at the end of that flu, you can see it's starting to trend up again. All right, it's starting to trend up again. And what I've seen is amazing. The rest of the numbers, if we were to let me just read you some numbers here, just for South Carolina in general, what we have seen just this past week, there have been 14 influenza associated hospitalizations by 38 different hospitals. We have seen our rate 5.9 per 100,000, and we've had more than 300 associated hospitalizations of flu this year. Now that sounds low, right? But really, we need to be starting to be kind of concerned about that. Here's the reason why. People are getting symptoms again, and people are either automatically attributing it to either it's COVID or we're attributing it to something else, or we're just kind of, people are tired. We're COVID tired, right? We're tired. This has been 2 years, 2.5 years we've been dealing with this.
2.5, yeah.
If I get another
COVID-19, 20, 21, and 22, girl.
I'm telling you. So if we get another symptom, people are just like, I don't really want to, case in point, my kids all of a sudden spiked fever last week. And I was like, golly, here we go again. So I swabbed them for COVID. It was COVID negative. I called the school though, because we can't send the kids to school with a fever. Please don't send your kids to school with a fever. All right. Or symptoms. All right. So I called the school and the school nurse said, well, can you just do me a favor and get them swabbed for the flu? And I was like, oh yeah, Dr. Nicole had kind of forgot about the flu, right? But I went and got them swabbed. They both were flu A positive. She said what the other thing was, what she's been seeing a lot of, people are double testing, positive for flu and positive for COVID. Oh my goodness, we are in the midst of this season right now, and people are attributing, they're forgetting there's a cause for your symptoms, all right? And so symptoms of fever, typically, now there is a difference between flu and COVID. They're both caused by viruses, but we do see different symptoms. We typically see higher fevers with COVID than with the flu than we do with COVID. So like my kids had a 103 temp last week. One had a 103 and one had a 102.4, all right? Versus, now let me also say this, caveat, with the different strains of COVID, we've seen different levels of fever. So some were like with Delta, we were seeing higher temperatures. With what's this last one? Omicron. All my Greek letters are just starting to merge together. But with Omicron, we're not seeing as high a fever. So it's like, okay, now we're seeing these high fevers again. Okay, these kids are getting flu. The kids are getting fatigue. My son is still having fatigue, and my son is still having a post-viral cough. That's what clued me in for you, because when I heard that cough, I said, "Oh, Trey, that sounds post-viral to me."
Yes.
Right? There is a sound to a cough, and believe me, it takes a trained ears to know it. But there is a specific cough that happens when you have a post-viral cough, and that's why I said, go get tested, because let's make sure that this isn't.
And I appreciated that, because I just thought, I don't know. I just thought, but I'll tell you, I think I did tell you I had a low grade fever, congestion in my chest, coughing, and I still have a little bit, like I said, just the remnants. I'm doing Vicks Vapor Rub and all that,
Right, but, all the natural things. Let me tell you what also it is right now, because the weather has been so janky. We are not getting we typically get warmer weather earlier in February, because my cherry blossom trees usually bloom early in February. It hasn't bloomed as of yet because it's been a little bit colder, but we are starting to also get into allergy season is already starting. As we have already been kind of into the uptake of the ragweed and things, but we're starting to see that too. So how do you know? Do I have allergies? Do I have COVID? Do I have flu? Do I have a cold? Like, what do I have? The best way to know is to go get tested, because treatment for each is going to be a little bit different. Now, what you said is correct. We do need to be doing some anti-inflammatory things in general, right? And we do need to be doing things like washing our hands. Everybody should be washing your hands anyway, wearing your mask, but there are some specific things that you can do. Like if it's allergies, you're going to treat it different than if it's the COVID or if it's the flu. So you got to know what you have in order to know how to treat it.
Right. Tamika Harris said she's got a cough. She said her cough sounds, I think that says harsh. I'm sorry, I can't see. I have my glasses on. Yeah. So Tamika, do you know what it is, or have you thought about the flu? Because again, I didn't even think about the flu, because my thought was I've got my flu shot.
Right. Well, here's the thing about the flu shot. Although I do encourage people to get your flu shot, the flu shot, we know that it protects most strains of the flu. We guess at the beginning of the season, we think it's going to be this strain. But what if the flu that's going around is a different strain that's not in that flu shot? That's why even though you get the flu shot, you can still get the flu. Usually what happens though, it's not as virulent or not as harsh of a presentation if you have the flu vaccine, and it doesn't last as long. Same thing with the COVID vaccine. It doesn't prevent you from getting it, but you won't hopefully get it as severe, and it won't last as long if you're vaccinated.
Right. Mike Walker says the weather change has affected his allergies. And that's what I thought it was, Mike. I thought it was just my allergies. But I'll tell you, I'm an avid mask wearer. You know what I mean? I'm wearing my mask I go to a lot of places, and I don't go many places, but I do go to a lot of places where I don't see people with their mask on. And I'm even more conscientious about wearing my mask. So like you, Mike, I wasn't sure if it was my allergies, if the kids came home for something. But the other thing I do, Dr. Nicole, is we get tested regularly, because we do have these children in here. Both of them are wearing their masks, like I'm sure you are, but everybody in the school is not wearing their masks.
Well, and here's the thing.
They take them off when you eat.
They take them off when they eat. And that's the point. And then what I've also learned is in some of the younger schools, like who take naps, they let them take them off while they're napping.
Right.
Which means they are breathing and getting it all out. Now, with Tamika's last comment that she just put up, there is a post, like I said, that post viral cough, and it is nasty. I had COVID on Christmas Eve, and I had that post-COVID cough for about 3 weeks after, and it is harsh, it is deep, and it almost hurts your chest. All right, and so you got to get some anti-inflammatory stuff in there. There's natural anti-inflammatories like bromelain and quercetin, and acetylcysteine are great for the lungs and for that upper respiratory system, and you can get those kind of things through Vitamin Shop, through my website line, Abundantly Natural. But you want to start treating you got to build your immune system up. Guys, we got so much stuff out there going on right now with our immune system. You want to make sure that you've got a healthy fighting immune system. So making sure you're taking your vitamin D, your vitamin C, your zinc, your magnesium, getting enough sleep. I know we just talked about that with the obesity,
and that's just
getting enough sleep.
Yeah. That's so huge, Nicole. I'll tell you that sleep is a big factor in our health. I don't think we think about that.
We don't. And then we also talked about stress. The more stress we have, the worse our immune system is as well. You can't fight the bad stuff that it's supposed to be fighting if it's dealing with all the increased stressors and all the increased cortisol that Dr. Earles was just talking about too. You got all that increased cortisol. It makes it harder. It makes it easier for the bacteria and the viruses to kind of overtake your body.
Right. Tamika says her whole house had COVID last month. We hope you guys are doing well. We're talking to Dr. Nicole Edwards, and we're talking about flu versus cold versus COVID and why it's important that you make sure what you have because it may or may not be one of the three things. So you should, like you say, you should still get your flu shot. So if you have symptoms, what should you do, Nicole? As you said, go get tested.
First thing first, go ahead and tested.
Okay.
Yeah. So go get tested so you can know what you have. But even if you are not going to get tested, and the other reason why it's a good idea to get tested is because you don't want to transmit things. Like, for example, with my kids, there was no way I'm sending them to school anyway, but I also wasn't bringing them around my parents because my parents are, over 65. So I want to make sure that they don't get the flu. So you want to, we should be, when you're sick, you shouldn't be around people anyway. But again, go get tested. The difference is too, we do have an antiviral out for the flu. So if we know you have the flu and you're flu positive, there are antivirals that you can get, but they work best within the first 72 hours of your symptoms. So you need to know what you have because there isn't, and the antiviral doesn't cure the flu, but it just helps it so that it doesn't, instead of it lasting for a week like it did with my babies, it might only last for 3 to 5 days.
Right. Okay. Josie said vitamins are crucial. Say that again. Yeah. That's the other thing. She texted me. She said, okay, make sure you're drinking your water and you're taking your vitamins. And I'm a big water drinker, pretty much other than tea and an occasional glass of wine. That's all I'm drinking is water. So, but one thing I wasn't taking a magnesium. I take an iron. I take a B because I take a hair, skin, and nail. I take an iron. What else did I say? A B and a C. I always take my C, but I wasn't taking the magnesium.
Magnesium is good. And there's all kinds of different formulations of magnesium, but magnesium is good for your immune system and zinc is good for your immune system too. So these are the things that you want to make sure that you have on your list, and a good probiotic as well, because we need to balance our gut. Because if your gut is overrun with a whole bunch of bacteria and stuff, then you can't fight your immune system. Yes, Mitchell, peace, Georgia, vitamin D.
Vitamin D. I do D too. That's the other thing I do, Mitch. I do D and I do the zinc, like you said. I just take, and I don't take it in a multi. Does it make a difference if you take it in a multi or if you just take it? Just take it. Okay.
Here's the difference. In a multivitamin, you have the convenience of just having one capsule or one pill. However, sometimes the formulations breaks down are a little bit lower when it's all combined into one. And so you actually, if you need, and of course, always check with your doctor before you're taking anything, even supplements, you need to check with your doctor to make sure that they don't coincide with any of your other medications or conditions. But you might get a higher dose if you're just taking the vitamin by itself.
Gotcha. Dr. Nicole Edwards joins us. We've been talking about the cold, the flu, COVID. You have actually a special on your website right now for vitamins because you have your own line, as a matter of fact, of supplements. Tell us what that is, Nicole.
So Abundantly Natural is the name of my vitamin supplement line. It's all natural vitamins and supplements. My website there that you got pulled up, Dr. Nicole D.O. That's DrNicoledo.com. For the month of February, because it's Heart Health Month, and we know that it's still cold and flu season too, I am giving 25% off of all anti-inflammatory and all heart-related vitamins. So if you use the coupon code HEART, HEART, you can get 25% off. So I have a great autoimmune bundle. So it has vitamin C, vitamin D, probiotics, the zinc, all the stuff that I was just talking about, the magnesium, it's all in that bundle. That bundle right now itself is being marked down. It's $99 for the bundle. And then you get an extra 25% off by using coupon code HEART. So please feel free to go on, get your vitamins. Y'all, it's flu season, it's cold season, it's allergy season, all those things. We've got to be diligent. We can't get weary and well doing. I know I'm not trying to preach to nobody today, but I'm tired too. But we've got to just remember that all of these viruses and stuff are still out there. That's also why I say wash your hands, wear your mask, and if you're sick, stay away from folks. Yeah. I wish I could I haven't seen my parents now in almost 2 weeks because somebody's been sick, like at some point or other. So I just don't want to bring it around them. But don't go around folks if you're sick.
Absolutely. Dr. Nicole, please go to her website. As you can see, it's right there. We've got her information up also. Go to the website and get her vitamins and supplements. As she said, just put HEART and you get 25% off. She is at Dr. Nicole. I think we've got her information. Dr. Nicole. do.com, drnicoled.com. If we can put her information up, Charity, you can see it right there. Go to the website and get the vitamins and supplements that you need. Dr. Nicole, thank you so much. Always, we appreciate you coming on and sharing such great information. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Stay safe, y'all. Stay healthy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nicole. Once again, drnicoled.com. And if you put in HEART, you get a 25% off discount on all of the vitamins and supplements. Listen, if you have a story or initiative that can help someone cope with COVID, please email booking@copingwithtreTailor.com. If you have a product or service that can help someone cope with COVID, email copingwithtreTailor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Our other sponsors include Javis Tax Services, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, Palmetto Media Connections, also Black Pages, Black Expo, the Comet Bus System, Agape Counseling and Training Services, and Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. Tomorrow, we've got a jam-packed show. Orlana Dawkins is looking for talented young people for her 13th annual Shine Award. She's based out of Philly, but she is showcasing young people all over the nation. She's going to join us tomorrow. Also, the folks with the City of Columbia are having a Black History Month gala. Want to get dressed up and go? Kim Mitchell will tell you all about that tomorrow. And then Dion Jenneret with 7 Sunday. All of this is part of our Black History Month focus on people doing it for the why. Speaking of that, Friday show, 2 other ladies who are doing it for the why, for the culture, if you will. Karen Alexander Banks with the Auntie Karen Foundation. She'll tell us about her upcoming Legends of Concert series, the 18th annual, and also why she even got into launching a nonprofit organization. And graphic artist, singer, and creative Tiffany J. Wilder also joins us to tell us why she's doing what she's doing. All of that and so much more coming up this week on Coping with COVID. As always, I leave you with a spiritual reading. I've been reading from Conversations with God. Cheryl Williams with Agape Counseling and Training Services wrote this easy to read, beautiful diary, so to speak, of some of her writings mixed with several scriptures. This says, listen carefully and intently. God says, my promises are true and my word does not return void. Open your ears to my word, not the world. This world limits you. When they limit you, they also limit me. I am God. There is nothing too hard for me. Just be still and know that I am God. I will prove myself to you. I will devour the enemies in your life, and I will set your feet on solid ground. I made you, so hold fast to my word. That's Conversations with God from Cheryl Mims Williams. Check it out if you get a chance. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you again so much for joining us on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. Actually, next week, we're going to talk about donating your body parts. That's a big taboo subject in some cultures. But not only do people need your kidneys and your bladder and your blood, whole body donation is also a big option. And we'll talk with some folks that'll tell you what those options are. That's next week on Wellness Wednesday. Until the next time, I wish you peace and abundant blessings. Take care. God bless. Stay well. Get your vaccine. check for flu and cold, like Dr. Nicole said, and don't forget to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. Thanks for watching.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success in improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive, ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do. 6 days to a better you. Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping. Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success in improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive, ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do. 6 days to a better you. Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping.